Chapter 1. Emma? What are you doing here? I asked, stepping into the room. My younger sister, Emma, jumped up like a startled rabbit, her hands fumbling behind her back as she tried to hide something. I tilted my head, narrowing my eyes. For a moment, I felt disoriented, like I was caught in a strange dream. Then it hit me. I had been reborn. Reborn to this exact day, the day I discovered Emma was pregnant. The memory came rushing back. I had seen her acting suspiciously, sneaking into her bedroom like she was hiding something. Curious and concerned, I had followed her, only to walk in on her like this, frantic, nervous, and clutching something she didn't want me to see. "Show me what you're hiding," I had demanded back then, my tone sharper than I'd intended. Emma had shaken her head furiously, refusing to hand it over. But I wasn't the kind of sister who gave up easily. After a tense struggle, I'd found it anyway, her pregnancy report. Emma was pregnant. At the time, it felt like my entire world had been turned upside down. And then our mother came home. That was the moment everything spiraled even further out of control. Our mother had always favored sons. She didn't have any herself, so she poured all her energy and money into her brothers, who were more than happy to take advantage of her generosity. Even Emma's and my money had been earmarked for their gambling debts. It was one of the reasons I'd refused to get married. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of using me as a pawn in her schemes. But when she found out Emma was pregnant, her face lit up like she'd just won the lottery. Ignoring Emma's protests and tears, she forced her to marry the boy. She even threatened him with legal action, claiming Emma was underage, and left him with no choice but to pay a hefty wedding money and take her as his wife. The marriage was a disaster. The boy hated Emma from the start. He hadn't wanted her, and now that he was stuck with her, he made no effort to hide his resentment. Emma's dreams of a fairy tale romance quickly crumbled. Instead of love and devotion, she found herself trapped in a cold, loveless marriage. And while she carried his child, he spent his nights with other women, flaunting his affairs without a shred of remorse. The betrayal shattered her. Already fragile from the stress and disappointment, Emma broke down completely when she discovered his infidelity. Her emotions spiraled out of control, and she lost the baby. The miscarriage was the final blow. With the child gone, Emma's dream of a perfect life was reduced to ashes. She was left with nothing but anger, regret, and bitterness. And she turned it all on me. "This is your fault," she had screamed at me, her face twisted with fury. "If it weren't for you, I'd still have my perfect love, my perfect family. Why did you have to ruin everything? You're the one who should pay for this, with your life." Those were the last words she said before she pushed me off the rooftop. Now, standing in the same room, staring at Emma as she nervously tried to hide something from me, I felt an eerie sense of déjà vu. But this time, things were different. This time, I smiled. "What's wrong?" I asked casually, my tone light. "Relax, Emma. I just wanted to give you some spending money." Reaching into my pocket, I pulled out 5 crisp $100 bills and handed them to her. She blinked at me, surprised. It wasn't just spending money. It was my way of giving her a head start, fuel for her runaway fantasy, if that's what she wanted. Because this time I wasn't going to stop her. This time, I'd let her chase her dreams, no matter how misguided they were. I smiled at her again, my voice calm and sweet. "Go ahead, Emma. Live your best life. And don't worry, I'll be right here, watching it all unfold." After all, I was the perfect sister, wasn't I? And this time, I'd make sure her story ended the way it was supposed to. Chapter 2. Emma was gone. She didn't wait for Mom to come home that evening. Instead, she left in a rush, slipping out of the house like a shadow. She didn't trust me, of course. She probably thought my earlier kindness was just a trick. Mom didn't care much for either of us, so it had always fallen to me to raise Emma, to discipline her, to protect her. And because of that, Emma feared me more than anyone else. To give her a clean getaway, I made myself scarce that evening, going out for dinner with some friends. When I got back, Mom was waiting for me in the living room. She glanced up from her spot on the couch, and her eyes narrowed when she noticed I was alone. "Where's Emma?" she snapped. "Why are you back by yourself?" Feigning confusion, I tilted my head. "Emma? Didn't she come home already? I thought she was in her room doing homework." Mom's expression darkened. "Her room's empty." "That little brat, she's out running around again, isn't she? She's getting bolder by the day. Doesn't even bother coming home anymore? What's next, huh? Is she planning to cut ties with me completely?" She kept muttering under her breath, cursing Emma like she always did. She had no idea Emma had actually run away. But that wasn't enough for me. I put on my best panicked sister act, rushing into Emma's room and noisily rummaging around. A moment later, I came out wide-eyed and breathless. "Mom. She's gone. Emma took all her stuff with her." You don't think she ran away, do you?" That got Mom's attention. Her face twisted into something between fear and rage. She didn't care that Emma had run away. What really scared her was the idea that Emma might have been lured away by some man. To Mom, Emma wasn't her daughter, she was an asset. She'd already lost control over me, and I could see how much she hated it. But Emma? Emma was still young, still gullible, and still easy to manipulate. And now, at the worst possible time, Emma had disappeared. Mom sprang into action like a woman possessed, grabbing her purse and heading straight to the police station to report Emma missing. But Emma had planned her escape well. Whether by luck or by design, she left no trace. Days passed, and the police turned up nothing, not a single clue about where she might have gone. It was as if she'd vanished into thin air. Mom's frustration boiled over. Her lips were cracked, her voice hoarse from shouting. She cursed Emma every chance she got. That ungrateful little brat. I worked my fingers to the bone raising her, and this is how she repays me? Running off with some lowlife, hiding out like a coward. She doesn't have any money, she's not even an adult yet. Where could she possibly go? And then, as if struck by a sudden thought, Mom froze mid-rant. Her eyes darted toward the wardrobe. She stormed over, yanked open the doors, and reached for her hidden stash of cash, the money she'd been saving up to buy Uncle a car. It was gone. The scream that came out of her was so loud I thought the neighbors might call the cops. That little thief. How could she do this to me? Do you know how hard I worked to save that money? Your poor uncle doesn't even have a car to get around, and now the money's gone. All of it. Emma took it all. Lily. She turned to me, her face contorted with desperation. What are we going to do? How are we supposed to fix this? Her priorities were crystal clear. Emma's safety didn't matter to her. Not even a little. All she cared about was the money, and how to replace it. I bit back a laugh and put on my best helpless face. You're right, Mom. How could she do something like this? She kept saying the school needed more money, so I spent all my salary helping her out. It still wasn't enough, so I even took out a loan to make sure she could stay in school. And now? Now she's run off with all the money. What am I supposed to do, Mom? I don't even have enough left to buy food. I let my voice crack just a little, my eyes welling up with fake tears. Chapter 3. Mom had handed Emma over to me years ago, washing her hands of any responsibility. She knew I was the one paying for everything Emma needed, and she was oddly proud of it. Raising a daughter without spending a dime? What a bargain. But Mom had no idea how expensive Emma really was. In her mind, raising kids meant giving them just enough food to keep them alive. School fees? Extracurriculars? Forget it. If the school wanted money, her solution was simple, just drop out. That was how she'd raised me. I'd never forgotten those years of scraping by, of watching other kids have what I could only dream of. That was why I worked so hard to give Emma a better life. I didn't want her to grow up feeling the same bitterness I did. But somewhere along the way, I overdid it. I'd spoiled her, protected her too much, and, in the process, turned her into someone who thought the world revolved around love and romance. Now, Mom was pacing the room, clutching her chest like she was about to collapse. She'd always assumed I'd saved up a fortune over the years. She'd been waiting for the right moment to threaten me into using that supposed fortune to buy Uncle a house. But when I told her I was broke, and worse, in debt, her face turned red with rage. In her fury, she sold off everything Emma had left behind. The clothes, the jewelry, the little luxuries I'd bought for her over the years, it was all gone. Most of it was high quality, and it fetched a good price. And for the first time in ages, Mom smiled. If she doesn't want to come home, fine. Let her stay gone. From this moment on, she doesn't exist. It's just the two of us now, Lily. We'll be just fine without her. And just like that, she started moving my things into Emma's old room. Our house wasn't big, just 2 small bedrooms. Emma and I used to share one when we were kids, but as she got older, she demanded her own space. She refused to share with me, so I moved in with Mom instead. Mom didn't care much, but if she had a favorite, it was Emma. She'd always had a soft spot for the younger one. Now, with Emma gone, Mom's attitude toward me had shifted. Suddenly, she was acting like she cared. "Lily, come eat something," she said, pushing a plate toward me. "Here, have some meat. You're so thin. You've been working too hard, you need to take care of yourself." I stared at the chunk of fatty meat she'd plopped into my bowl and forced a smile. I picked it up with my chopsticks and tucked it into the farthest corner of the bowl, untouched. I hated fatty meat. Mom kept piling food onto my plate, fawning over me, pretending to be a doting parent. I didn't react. I wasn't stupid. She didn't suddenly care about me. She'd just shifted gears. Emma was gone, and with her, the wedding money Mom had been counting on to pay off Uncle's gambling debts. Now, I was the backup plan. She was trying to butter me up, to get me on her side, so she could sell me off to the highest bidder. But I wasn't falling for it. I went through the motions, eating, chatting, pretending nothing was wrong, and ignored her unsubtle comments about finding me a good man or a stable future. When it became clear I wasn't playing along, Mom's patience ran out. She dropped the act and sat there in silence, sulking as she angrily shoveled food into her mouth. For a moment, I thought that was the end of it, that she'd give up, at least for now. But I was wrong. The nightmare was just beginning. It started as a wave of exhaustion. At first, I didn't think much of it. I'd been working long hours, and I figured the fatigue was finally catching up to me. I excused myself, went to my room, and collapsed into bed. But not long after, I heard the faint sound of the doorknob turning. Click. My heart jolted. I'd locked the door before lying down for safety. If it was Mom, why wouldn't she just knock? Why would she try to unlock the door in the middle of the night? A chill ran through me, and I tried to sit up, but I couldn't. My body felt heavy, my head foggy. It was like I was sinking into quicksand. My limbs refused to move, no matter how hard I tried. That's when it hit me. The food. Mom had drugged me. Chapter 4. Rage and despair simmered inside me. How could I have been so careless? The thrill of my rebirth had blinded me to the truth I already knew too well: my mother was as heartless. Did I really think she'd care about me now? Thankfully, I'd had the presence of mind to grab my phone before locking myself in the room. My fingers fumbled, but I managed to call the police. The sound of my voice must have tipped them off. The person outside, who had been quietly working on the lock, suddenly gave up on subtlety. The metallic click-click was replaced by loud, heavy bangs. They were trying to break the door down. Fear shot through me like ice water. My head was spinning, my body sluggish and heavy from whatever drug Mom had slipped into my food. No matter how hard I willed myself to wake up, my limbs refused to cooperate. I tried to push the wardrobe against the door, desperate to create some kind of barricade. But my muscles were too weak, trembling with every movement. The furniture didn't budge. And then, with one last deafening crash, the door burst open. A man rushed in, his face twisted with purpose. I couldn't fight him, not directly, but I wasn't going down without a fight. Summoning what little strength I had left, I grabbed the blanket from my bed and flung it at him, covering his head. My hand brushed against something on the floor, Emma's lighter. She'd hidden it under the bed back when she was sneaking cigarettes, and now it was my lifeline. I flicked it on. The flame caught instantly, and I pressed it to the edge of the blanket. The fabric, already soaked with alcohol from one of Emma's secret bottles, went up in flames with a loud whoosh. The fire spread across the blanket in seconds, and the man screamed, staggering back, clawing at the burning fabric. Mom bolted into the room, her face a mix of panic and fury. She wasn't here to save me. She was here to save him. She didn't hesitate, rushing toward him to help beat out the flames. So, this was her plan all along. She'd been standing outside, keeping watch while he came for me. The fire gave me a sliver of time. Crawling on my hands and knees, I dragged myself to the window and pulled it open. The safety bars outside stopped me from falling, but they also trapped me. I couldn't escape, but I could make sure they couldn't drag me back inside. Using a strip of cloth, I tied myself tightly to the bars, securing my body against the metal. Then I screamed. "Help! Somebody help me!" But the drugs had weakened me. My voice was hoarse and barely above a whisper. What I thought was a desperate cry for help probably sounded to the world like the faint mewling of a cat. Still, I clung to the bars, refusing to let go. Mom and the man were frantic now, pulling at me, trying to drag me back inside. But the cloth held firm, and they couldn't budge me. Realizing I wasn't coming loose, Mom ran off to find scissors, yelling something incoherent as she searched. By now, the commotion had drawn attention. Neighbors gathered outside, whispering and pointing. Some of them recognized me. "Isn't that Lily? What's going on?" They knocked on the door, demanding answers, but Mom ignored them. She was too focused on trying to salvage her plan, too determined to see this through. I was fading fast. My grip on the bars weakened, my vision blurred, and my thoughts grew hazy. The police had arrived. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. I learned later that the officers had broken down the door, pulling me out just in time. Mom and the man were arrested and handcuffed on the spot. But of course, Mom denied everything. "What do you mean, rape?" she screamed during the interrogation, her voice shrill and indignant. "They're engaged. They're in love. She's going to marry him. I'm her mother, why would I lie about this?" The man eagerly backed her up. "Exactly. I already gave her the wedding money, $50,000. She's my fiancé. How can it be rape if it's my own wife?" The officers looked at them, clearly exasperated. "But it's obvious she didn't consent," one of them said, trying to keep calm. "That makes it rape, no matter what you call it." Mom slapped her thigh, her voice rising even louder. "Consent? The drug she took, she swallowed it herself. If she didn't want this, why would she take something to get in the mood? Girls these days are just shy, that's all. Don't listen to her nonsense. I'm her mother. Would I ever hurt her?" I was so furious I couldn't even speak. In the end, it didn't matter. Without solid evidence or witnesses to prove the man's intent, the case fell apart. The drugs in my food? That was on Mom. She was sentenced for it, but the damage was done. Her actions stained my reputation. Even after her punishment, I would carry her mistakes with me for the rest of my life. At the advice of the police, I chose not to pursue the case any further. Chapter 5. After that, I didn't even dare go home. I hid at work, convincing myself it was safer there. But the truth was, I couldn't shake the fear that my mother might show up at any moment. She knew where I worked, after all. The anxiety became unbearable. I quit my job, packed up my things, and left town with nothing but my last paycheck. As for my savings, most of it was already gone. Half had been spent on Emma, her school fees, her clothes, her endless needs. The rest? My mother had taken it. That had been her condition for not forcing me into marriage. You don't want to get married? Fine, she'd said, her voice dripping with contempt. But if you're not marrying, then you don't need to support a family. What's the point of all that money? Just bring it home and hand it over to me. A good daughter knows how to show respect. At the time, I'd stayed for Emma. I couldn't abandon her, not when she was still stuck in that hellish house. She was too young, too helpless, I couldn't leave her behind. I fought tooth and nail to keep half my paycheck for her expenses. When that wasn't enough, I took out loans to cover her tuition. I lived on scraps, handing the rest of my earnings to my mother every month just to keep the fragile peace. All the while, I was waiting for the right moment to leave and take Emma with me. But Emma didn't care about the plans I'd made for her. Now that she was gone, I was finally free. With no one to hold me back, I could leave that miserable little town behind and chase something bigger, something better. My skills could take me to a big city, where opportunities were endless. This time, I left without hesitation. No goodbyes, no trail for my mother to follow. And because I was an adult, there was nothing she could do. She couldn't report me missing, couldn't send the police after me the way she had for Emma. For once, she was completely powerless. But she still had one problem, the dowry. She'd already taken the money from the groom's family, and now she needed a daughter to deliver on that promise. If I wasn't available, she'd just go after Emma instead. My mother searched everywhere for her, turning over every stone. With the police's help, she eventually found her. Emma's situation was worse than I could have imagined. She'd been kidnapped. At first, she'd simply been running, pregnant and desperate to stay hidden from our mother. She couldn't stay in hotels or take trains, afraid of being caught. Instead, she wandered the streets, sleeping in parks and hiding in corners, hoping to disappear. But Emma was too beautiful to blend in. Her delicate face and soft features made her stand out, even when she tried to stay invisible. It didn't take long for someone to notice her. That night, an old man approached her in the park. He told her she reminded him of his granddaughter and said he couldn't bear to see her so pitiful. "Come home with me," he said. "I'll take care of you like my own family." Emma, scared and with nowhere else to go, accepted. But the old man had no intention of treating her like a granddaughter. He wanted her as a wife. When he tried to force her, Emma fought back with everything she had. But he refused to let her go. Instead, he locked her up, determined to keep her. The only thing that saved her was the baby. The old man, convinced the child was his, became ecstatic at the thought of being a father again. He treated Emma like a treasure, catering to her every need. Emma, realizing the danger of her situation, didn't dare tell him the truth. She played along, letting him believe the baby was his. Her plan was simple: wait until the baby was born, and then escape. But my mother found her before she could carry out her plan. The old man had taken Emma to the hospital when she went into labor, excitedly bragging about his son to the nurses. That's when my mother and the police arrived. By the time they got there, chaos had already erupted. Emma was in the middle of a shouting match with the old man. "This is my son," the man roared, his face flushed with anger. "You can't take him away. You're my wife. Where are you trying to run off with my child?" Emma, holding the baby protectively against her chest, didn't back down. "Your son? Are you out of your mind? This child has nothing to do with you. You think I'd have a kid with someone like you? Look at yourself. You're ancient. You couldn't father a child even if you tried." The old man's face twisted with fury. "You little," he spat, raising his hand to strike her. Emma stumbled back, clutching the baby tighter. Her voice cracked as she screamed for help. The hospital erupted into chaos. Nurses and patients scrambled to get out of the way as Emma ran down the hallway, the old man close behind her. In the end, it was the hospital security guards who stepped in, tackling the man before he could reach her. Chapter 6. When Mom arrived, she was greeted by a chaotic scene. Her face turned cold as she snatched Emma's child and thrust him into Mr. Johnson's arms. "Take your child and leave immediately. What are you staring at? Come home with me. How did I raise such a troublesome daughter? You're so young, and yet you got yourself pregnant. I worked hard to feed and clothe you, and this is how you repay me?" Though her words seemed to be for Emma's good, her heart was filled with curses. She had painstakingly raised her daughter, hoping to marry her off for a good price. How could she let someone ruin her like this? How could she sell her now? Emma was defiant. "My child is mine and my boyfriend's, not his. If you don't believe me, get a paternity test." Emma refused to leave, and Mr. Johnson didn't want to lose his precious son either, so they called the police. The police, of course, were impartial. They conducted a paternity test between Mr. Johnson and the child. The results showed that the child was indeed not his. Mom then pressured Emma for information about her boyfriend. Now that the child was born and Emma's plan to run away with the baby was complete, she was willing to talk. Based on Emma's description, the police summoned the man for a paternity test. The man arrived, looking bewildered. "Impossible. We broke up a long time ago. I'm married now. How could this be my child?" Emma was shocked. "You're married? How could you get married? Didn't you say I was your true love? How could you marry another woman?" The man looked at Emma several times, but couldn't remember who she was. "Lucy? Lucy? I'm Emma. Emma." The man's confused eyes pierced Emma's heart. Emma lunged at the man, hitting him. "You said you loved me the most. You said you would marry me. That's why I gave you my first time." The man suddenly understood. "But didn't you say you didn't care about me? You deleted my contact the next day and disappeared. That was a tactic to make you chase me. Couldn't you have tried to keep me?" "I ran away because I was pregnant with your child." The man was baffled. "But you did run away. I thought you didn't want to be with me. I've been married for a long time." "No, you have to divorce her." "How can you abandon our child?" "Divorce her immediately." Emma was lost in her own world, trying to defend her perfect love. The man was having none of it. Hearing Emma's absurd demands, his face changed. "What are you talking about? My wife and I are very happy. Don't spread lies. My wife is pregnant. I've checked, she's carrying a healthy baby boy, the heir of the Johnson family." Emma was furious. It shouldn't be like this. She was his first woman, her child was his first child. He was her man. How could he be with another woman? "I gave birth to your firstborn. This is your first son. You said you loved me, that's why I had him." The man didn't believe her. "You say he's mine, but who knows whose child he really is? We haven't seen each other in ages. And if he was really mine, why didn't you tell me back then? You ran away with the child because you felt guilty." Chapter 7. Emma couldn't say that she got the idea from a novel. She was speechless. Having just given birth and experiencing such a series of events, Emma fainted from the man's harsh words. Later, the doctor arranged for a paternity test between the man and the child, but the man refused. "No, I said he's not mine, so he's not mine. You can't make me take a paternity test. I'm telling you, this child isn't mine. I won't pay a cent in child support." Emma wanted to make a scene, but Mom covered her mouth and dragged her away. Mom had already threatened the man with Emma's underage status and extorted $10,000 in hush money from him. The man, having spent all his savings to marry his wife, didn't want these messy affairs to disturb his pregnant wife. He agreed immediately, gave Mom $10,000, and left without looking back. He didn't want Emma or the child. In the past life, he married Emma but still fooled around because Emma was devoted to him. He knew that no matter how much he messed around, Emma wouldn't leave him. She begged to marry him. But now, his wife was someone he spent a lot of money to marry. He wouldn't dare mess around. Emma finally returned with the child, but the outcome was not what she had hoped for. She was still so young. She should be enjoying life at school, having a beautiful romance. Why wasn't reality like that? The baby's piercing cries brought Emma back to reality. Emma covered her face and cried in despair. "Mom, take this child away. Take him away. I don't want to see him." Emma's sharp cries pierced the room. Mom rushed in and slapped her. She then roughly uncovered Emma's clothes and forced her to breastfeed the baby. "The baby is hungry, can't you hear? You gave birth to him, you feed him. Don't think I'll spend money on formula. I worked hard to raise you, and this is how you repay me. I haven't even settled accounts with you yet." Emma was in a daze. Her life was ruined. She just wanted to be left alone, but the baby was constantly tormenting her. Mom worked 8 jobs a day to earn money for Uncle, leaving no time to care for Emma or money to give her. Emma had no money, surviving on the bread and porridge Mom brought home each day. But this food wasn't enough to feed herself, let alone the baby. The baby was constantly hungry and cried all the time. Emma was so annoyed she wished she could make him stop crying forever. Every day, Mom came home after a long day to find the baby covered in filth and Emma sitting on the bed, lost in thought. Mom was fed up. She couldn't wait to arrange a better future for Emma, but the baby had to go. Luckily, the baby was a boy, and there were many people eager to adopt boys. Seeing that Emma didn't want the baby, Mom subtly suggested finding another home for him. Emma had no attachment to the baby. She only had him for her so-called beautiful love. Hearing she could get rid of the burden, she agreed immediately. Chapter 8. Mom arranged for the baby to be taken to a new home. Since he was a boy, he fetched a good price. Mom was overjoyed, one step closer to paying off Uncle's debts. Now, all that was left was Emma's future. Mom contacted the man who had paid the bride price and told him Emma was back. Though Emma had given birth, she was still young and would recover quickly. The man was thrilled to get such a beautiful young girl and agreed to switch the marriage arrangement from me to Emma. Mom, fearing Emma might run away again, took advantage of Emma's dazed state and had the man take her away under the pretense of a walk. The man, also wary of a repeat of last time, locked Emma up at home. Emma didn't see the light of day again until she was giving birth. Emma was pregnant again. The man, much older, had no children and desperately wanted a son. But Emma, having just given birth, was too weak to conceive again. The man didn't care. He forced herbal remedies down Emma's throat to make her conceive. Emma struggled and tried to escape, but she was too young and small to fight off a burly man. Locked up at home, she couldn't even step outside. Maybe the strange medicines worked, or maybe it was something else, but Emma did get pregnant. The man, fearing she might run away, didn't let her go for prenatal checkups. When it was time to give birth, she delivered a child with ambiguous characteristics. The doctor explained that the herbal remedies Emma took during pregnancy caused the originally female fetus to develop both male and female characteristics, resulting in an ambiguous child. Though the child appeared ambiguous, she was essentially female and could undergo surgery to correct it when she grew up. So, he's not a son? He can't carry on my family name? The man, initially delighted with the child, was stunned by the doctor's words and threw the baby aside. The baby cried loudly from the fall, but neither parent comforted her. The doctor, having seen many such cases, was unfazed. Technically, yes. If you want to keep the male characteristics, you can, but the child won't be able to reproduce. If she can't carry on the family name, what's the point? I'm not spending money on her treatment. The man, furious, dragged Emma off the bed and tried to take her away, ignoring the baby left in the hospital room. Emma, weak from childbirth, screamed in pain as she was dragged across the floor. "Help! He's a human trafficker. I was forced to have this baby. Help me!" Emma had had enough of this miserable life. She was young, not stupid. She didn't want to spend her life with this violent man. Mom took the money, and she suffered. She wasn't going to put up with it. The medical staff, initially reluctant to intervene in a family dispute, called the police, fearing something serious. The man, red with anger, shouted, "I paid the bride price. She had my child. Now you want to run? Dream on. I'll beat you to death." Chapter 9. The man beat Emma mercilessly, and the medical staff couldn't hold him back. By the time the police arrived, Emma was writhing on the floor. Since Emma was underage and not legally married to the man, the police quickly rescued her. The man, unable to take Emma, demanded the bride price back. The police arrested him for assault and other charges. Emma escaped but had nowhere to go, so she was sent back to Mom's house. The outcome was predictable. Mom would try to arrange another future for Emma. Emma knew this and had no choice but to pin her hopes on me. "Sister, please help me. Let me go to school. I'll study hard and repay you." I was silent for a long time on the other end of the line. People only realize what they have lost when it's gone. Was she regretting losing me as a sister? No, she regretted losing someone who would unconditionally spend money on her. Emma, sensing my silence, panicked and screamed at me. "If you don't help me, you'll be next. Do you think you can escape? I know you despise me for being dirty, but isn't this all your fault? If you had stopped me, things wouldn't have turned out this way. Yes, it's all your fault. You owe me. You can't abandon me. See, bad people remain bad because they are rotten to the core." But I still helped her. I had to. I wouldn't let Mom or Emma off the hook. I gently comforted Emma and expressed sympathy for her plight. "Sigh, it's not that I don't want to help you, but I'm powerless. I feel for you. How could Mom be so heartless? She sold your first child, and who knows if this one will survive. That's illegal. I'm too scared to go back." "Yes, illegal, illegal." Emma seemed to grasp something. The next time I heard about Mom, she had been arrested for illegal activities. Mom was furious, not expecting her own child to betray her. Terrified, she begged Uncle to use the money she gave him to pull some strings and save her. After all, she had given him all the money from her activities, a total of $70,000. Uncle refused, saying not a penny was left. Mom owed him the money as her brother. Once given, it was his. There was no taking it back. As for Mom being imprisoned, she deserved it for breaking the law. It had nothing to do with him. Chapter 10. In her time of need, Uncle showed his true colors, speaking with disdain. "This is your karma. Who knew you would break the law for money? Don't call yourself my sister and ruin my reputation." Mom was bewildered and incredulous. "George, didn't you say you loved me the most? Didn't you say you'd take care of me for the rest of my life? If not for you, would I be so isolated?" Uncle George's response was, "Your choices have nothing to do with me. Don't bother me again." Mom regretted it, regretting giving all the money to Uncle, regretting not treating us sisters well. We wouldn't see her as a real mother, wouldn't give her money or help her. Uncle refused to help, and Mom was sentenced. In court, Mom cried and begged for our forgiveness, hoping we would visit her. But it was too late. Emma stood in the plaintiff's seat, full of disgust, and I didn't even attend. Emma thought she could finally have a good life, but reality hit her hard. The police handed the child with ambiguous characteristics to Emma. The child's father was in prison, so the mother had to raise her. Emma was struck by lightning. Emma had escaped Mom and the old man, but now she had to raise the child alone. The child, born different, was weak and cried all the time, more than the first child. Emma's head was about to explode. She didn't want to care for a normal baby, let alone a difficult one. And because of Emma's actions against the old man, his family refused to pay any child support. Mom's assets were taken by Uncle, leaving the family destitute. Emma wanted to work, but the child kept her tied down. Emma was starving, full of resentment toward the unexpected child. Emma, still young, couldn't bear it. In a fit of rage, she made a terrible decision. Emma thought it was no big deal. She wouldn't be sentenced because she wasn't 18 yet. But she had read too little. 16 was the age of criminal responsibility. And she had just turned 16. Emma was arrested. As she was taken away, she called me, shouting, "It wasn't supposed to be like this. Why didn't you save me this time? Why?" I didn't respond and hung up. It had nothing to do with me anymore. Everyone got what they deserved. And I was ready to start a new life.